Hi, and welcome back to Mingis on Tech. I'm Ken Mingis, Executive Editor at Computerworld. I'm here with Mike Dagonia, our Apple expert, another Apple expert, Mike Simon from Macworld. It's Apple Week. WWDC is going on, and we're going to talk about what happened yesterday and what we think about it. Stick around. Okay, so yesterday's big keynote, 2+ hours this year.
It was a long one.
No hardware, which we didn't really expect. I wasn't expecting.
I thought maybe we would see like an iPhone SE2 or something kind of make an appearance or something, but yeah.
Usually there are rumors.
I mean, there's a lot of rumors out there. I mean,
hardware's
coming.
Wasn't the consensus, though, basically that Apple, we were talking about this earlier, Mike, that Apple really wanted to focus on the software and try to get away from these keynotes that just go all over the place with hardware and software.
I think last year, we had Macs and iPads and it was a HomePod.
Yeah.
And I think that really affected Apple's quality control over software. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to say, but I think it did. I think
Apple's quality control has been suspect.
Well, yeah, right. But I think that because they're trying to do too many things, there's too many balls in the air at once. And I think by saying, all right, this is software. These are the teams that do it. These are the people that do it, and this is separate from whatever you're going to see the rest of the year.
Right. Well, I mean, isn't that the whole point too? That a lot of what we saw in what's coming in iOS 12 and macOS Mojave, and it's a
good name, by the way.
Mojave. I like that. Yeah, I do too.
I
and the graphics, the images and the dark mode.
Yeah,
I like that. But isn't the whole point this is sort of a spit and polish year? They're going to try to, they're obviously adding some features and things like that, but also that one of the big things they talked about was boosting performance.
Right?
That was the first,
which they highlighted, in a major way.
I mean, they always do, but this one seemed like a little bit more kind of laser focused on older phones.
Right, and if you're talking about something like that, doesn't that imply that the performance wasn't great?
Most
to
definitely
begin with? And I wonder if
I don't think that was a secret.
No, well, I mean, exactly.
Especially with the older devices. I mean, the newer devices are always fine.
Stuff,
but some of the older devices, they really sacrifice performance. So it's really good to hear Apple is focusing on performance and stability because these past few years.
You've always joked that when it comes to the developer releases, the public betas, and of course the
Summer of Bugs.
This
is the first year I'm opting out.
Because of the bugs, and this may be the best year yet. There may not be any bugs.
Yeah, I actually heard.
Right.
I read some. Well, you have it, and people have been saying that it's pretty stable for a beta 1 developer.
Right. But that's the thing. I mean, with my iPhone, and I personally use my iPhone and it's my iPad. There are just little things that just annoy me.
Oh, sure.
Just annoy me.
If it's your daily driver, it's you're definitely taking a gamble.
Right. And let's see, the last, I don't know, since 2007 to 2008 or whatever, every year has been the summer of bugs because I always jump on the betas. But this year, it seems more iterative, and the stuff that I'm looking forward to, which is the speed increases, which is the stability improvements. You don't get that with beta builds.
Okay, well let's talk about that. All right, we can just take it one at a time. We should probably start with iOS 12 since so much of the keynote was devoted to that, and I just wanted to see what kind of jumped out to you guys in terms of memorable or not memorable, or tweaks and changes that you really like or that you think are silly. So let's start with iOS 12. Thoughts?
Again, I like the focus on performance.
Yeah,
I think that's great. As far as I'm concerned, that is the focus of iOS 12, performance and stability or whatever, and everything else that they announced, those are just bonus features. That's my take on it. Yeah. Because I'm really looking forward to an iOS that's more stable than the past few years have been.
I have an iPhone 6, and it reminds me, I 6S. It reminds me I got to go replace the battery before I get the public beta.
You better get it now.
It's not going to work.
Right. Oh, you have to have the battery, the new battery?
I mean, no, it will work, but the battery on that
down.
thing is so bad. Like, I'll unplug it, and 30 minutes later, it'll be down to 20%. It's really bad.
Yeah.
So I got to go pay my $29 and get my new battery.
Get that, and then you can try the beta. I have to admit, it's something specific to me, but I was really glad to see that Apple is finally opening up CarPlay to third-party navigation apps. I've never quite. I mean, I understand at first they wanted to get Apple Maps out there, but my God, it was such a disaster when they launched it. Maybe they figured they needed a few years to get people using it before they would put some competition on the screen in the car.
Yeah, and it's still not as good as
It's
Google
not.
or Waze or Google is Waze, but it's not the same level of just expertise.
Google has just had that experience.
It just feels like that with Maps that it's not something that's a high priority for Apple.
But that's the problem. What it is, though? I mean,
it should be.
It's a default Maps app for 50 million phones a quarter. I mean, it should be a pretty high priority. And to Apple's credit, what it's been out for 5 years now, it's gotten a hell of a lot better than it was at the beginning. It was terrible at the beginning. So it's, I can use it and I generally get to where I need to go.
I do like the predictive sort of features, when you get in the car and it knows you're heading home or knows you're heading to work and, can route you in different ways if there's traffic.
But what doesn't do that at this point?
Well, exactly.
Yeah. And when you fire up Google Maps, it's like, whoa, it's a totally different world of, they have the new AR stuff coming out with the turn-by-turn directions. They have integration with all the restaurants and things. And it's like you don't need to leave the app.
Right.
Google Maps is like a whole social network.
It's in a whole ecosystem when you're on the road.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I really want to see that and try that in the car. I guess those apps would have to be rewritten or something will have to be done before they're going to start showing up.
Google announced Waze was coming to Android Auto a year and a half ago, and I think it only just arrived very recently. So, I mean, these things take time. I'm not sure if that's going to be something we'll see in September. Who knows?
Is that a feature of the OS of Android or is that the Google Maps? Is that separate? Is that a separate update? Do you know what I mean? Is it integrated?
It's a separate, like the Android Auto stuff comes at its own time, and the Google Maps comes at its own time.
Okay,
they're on a different cadence.
Yeah, because right now CarPlay seems to be updated only when iOS is updated.
Android doesn't do it that way. Google updates its app separately from the OS, which is much better.
Yeah, because then you can decouple and then
and it's quicker. It's quicker. Their point upgrades. You can just update the app rather than the whole operating system.
Exactly.
So iOS 12, anything jump out?
Yeah, the digital wellness stuff. The Do Not Disturb notifications and the new Screen Time app. Way overdue.
Yeah.
But I have a 6-year-old son, and I use Alexa. He'll say, Alexa, set a timer. If he knows now when he's able to use his iPad, he'll say, Alexa, set a timer for 30 minutes. And now he could ask Siri.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He likes Alexa better.
Are we sure Siri would do it as well as Alexa? No, we're not.
It might be a 40-minute timer. but regardless of that, there's no way for me to say, all right, you're done.
Yeah.
There's no way for me to look at what he's doing. He's 6. He's not doing things behind my back. But if he was at 12, he might be.
Yeah.
There's no way for parents to monitor that stuff. There's no way to restrict access to apps, things like this. Safari has restrictions for websites and stuff, but Apple lagged big time when it comes to this so-called smartphone addiction thing and the digital wellness stuff that Google has been on board with for several years now. Amazon has its own app for the Kindle Fire stuff.
Yeah.
So it's good to see Apple jumping on board with this. I mean, again, very late and nothing really new.
That goes back to the point we were talking earlier that everything that Apple announced yesterday was somewhere else.
It certainly seems that way to me. Yeah.
Maybe there's something that's truly innovative, but is either somewhere else or is coming to Android, or as I said, it corrects something that they did wrong last year with the like the swipe that you have to use to get rid of to kill an app. You had to swipe up and hold it, wait for the thing, and now you just swipe it up and it's gone. So that's fixing something that was probably not a good.
But I think
UI
they were
from
trying to
last
get
year.
people away from force quitting apps.
Yeah.
That's why they made it that extra step where you have to press and hold in the app
and
switcher. And then
I actually think you're right there, but it's so silly. Like like for example, my wife, I've been telling her I stopped for 7 years or whatever. How long is the iPhone?
Stop
10
quitting
years.
apps.
Yeah, because when she's done with her thing, she'll go, and I'll say, you don't need to do that. And she just likes to do it. Some people
It's sort of like having a clean. It's like having a
clean.
clean.
They need to have their quit button.
It's like having a clean desk.
Absolutely.
The idea that those little apps are back there in frozen state or whatever,
and it doesn't.
It's like
it's not like it's going to hurt anything if you do quit them. So
No.
why make it harder for people to do it?
Well, it's going to hurt battery life a little bit if you have to keep relaunching the apps. I mean, that's why the save states are
minuscule.
But I don't think that's that's going to be a huge thing.
If you compare two battery lives, I mean, it would be within minutes of each other.
Gotcha. But
it's not.
What if you need those?
If you're in a desert somewhere and you need to make that one last call,
he gets it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, okay. So iOS 12, lots of minor tweaks, features, good things. I'm also curious about the FaceTime for up to 32 people.
Yeah, no, thank you.
That to me sounds. I'm interested. I would like to try it. Not with 32 people, but it also sounds like the kind of thing where it could be cool. But sometimes when you get on the a message thread with about 5 people and people are responding and being bing,
Right.
bing, bing,
It's
bing,
like
bing,
how does it handle talking over?
So
each
I'm
other?
not sure exactly. I'll
yeah,
be
it looked
curious.
like the way they were doing it looked like one
The person
came to the
speaking
front
comes
and then
up
went
is
to the-
larger.
Yeah, but I only use FaceTime for my son
One-on-one?
with his grandparents or his
Yeah.
uncle or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't need them all calling at once. The fact that it's even there bothers me.
Yeah. Well,
It should be a business, like make FaceTime something or other, like Google does with Hangouts. And,
I could
they
see.
have
Well, I could see
separate
this morphing
features.
into sort of a collaboration kind of thing at
Maybe,
some
yeah.
point. Obviously this isn't it, but I was also kind of intrigued by the privacy announcements around Safari and ways of limiting who's tracking. Now, of course, in the advertising business, that's not a good thing. In our particular industry, that could be problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But giving more people control over, of course, they showed the prototypical ad that pops up and then pops up everywhere you go and follows you along, and that maybe this will have something to do with that. And it's not just on iOS; it's also in Safari and macOS in Mojave.
Yep.
So it's interesting that they keep sort of hitting that privacy button.
Oh, Apple's pushing privacy big time.
yeah,
Even if you
that's
watch
their
the
thing.
State of the Union
That's their thing.
address, the first thing they discuss is privacy, or one of the first things that it discusses privacy. So it's good to see that Apple taking this really seriously, especially in light of the Facebook scandals, I guess.
And if you want to talk to something that's strictly Apple, I mean, that would be it.
Right.
Agreed.
Really, absolutely.
I do think
where
they've hit
no
it
one
enough
else
that when you
is-
think Apple and privacy, those two do go together
Yeah.
in your mind's eye. So noteworthy that they pointed that out. I guess we could sort of shift on to Mojave, since it's the same sort of thing with Safari. There is going to have the privacy improvements, I guess.
There's also just go back up
yeah,
one
go
second. They're doing autofill passwords
Passwords.
for two-factor authentication as well. Which
Thank
Google
God.
does.
I'm getting tired of remembering those 6-digit
Absolutely.
codes and then trying
But
to.
here's why that's important in my mind. It's going to get more people to adopt that platform, to adopt two-factor authentication, because it's you're right. It's an annoyance to go up, remember the thing, I forgot it, go back, copy, paste. This will
get it
be,
wrong.
it'll just be there. It'll work, and it'll give people an extra layer of protection for their apps and their phones and things like that. So,
Yeah, smart. I agree.
What do you guys think of the workflow integration? Siri Shortcuts.
Siri Shortcuts.
Is what
Siri
they're calling it
Shortcuts?
now.
I think it's going to be handy
here's
if it
the-
works as build.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be. Let's just say I'm not sure if the average person is going to use it.
Right. That's why
I'm not even sure I'm going to use
Yeah.
it, and I'm not the average
Right.
person.
And I think it's pretty amazing that they went from 0 to 60
right.
with that.
Yeah.
And I think it's on par with what Amazon offers with Alexa, but
Sure.
the way Alexa sells itself to consumers versus the way people use their iPhones, it's a completely different thing.
Sure.
Apple needs a $50 HomePod for this stuff to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't use their phones for that stuff. They
Fair
use
enough.
their home speakers, and I don't know if people have HomePods.
Are you thinking of this?
I don't even know if it works on HomePod. They didn't even say.
No. Are you thinking of this in terms of like it's similar to Alexa skills, enabling skills and adding the skills?
and also routines, and they're kind of taking all those things and doing their own thing. Like, for example, I say, Alexa, good night, and all my lights go off and my door locks and all that other stuff. And it seems like you're going to be able to set up a similar series of events for keywords, customized keywords for Siri Shortcuts or Shortcuts.
Yeah.
But it's on my phone.
Right.
So I got to take my phone out. I got to unlock it. I got to set it all up. I got to do all that stuff. Then when I say it, I have to have my phone nearby. They didn't really.
Well, if we're talking
it works with
about-
your watch as well. I
Right.
said,
But if
they
we're talking
didn't-
about home automation stuff, that's separate from, because you can set up different accessories in different scenes that can trigger
in the home,
In
app.
home.
in home.
yeah,
home
but
app.
it's still all
But-
kind of segmented.
Agreed. This Siri Shortcuts I think is gonna be interesting, but it's like you said, it's a limited. See, I think this is a power user.
Yeah,
I think
it's a
this
very
is
limited
specific
use
for
case.
power user,
Yeah.
but it has to. The integration with the applications have to be deep enough to also entice the power users
Mm-hmm.
to continue to use it. Because if it's just superficial, scripting or basic stuff, then even power users are going to say, all right, this doesn't go as deep as what I'd like.
Yeah, I don't
So
know.
I'm,
I mean,
I'm interested to see where
they're-
they go.
This is all part of. They bought that workflow
Yep,
app.
workflow
Right.
app. Yep.
And I mean, if it's on that level, I mean, it was basic, but not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, because I was a big workflow user,
Yeah.
and so when Apple bought them, I was happy because that means deeper integration. So I'm actually curious to see how far the integration goes.
I think it would be more useful if you could, and this is way out in the future, probably say, Siri, set up a routine to do X, Y, and Z, and it's set up. This whole idea of going through a variety of steps along
Even
the
if
way.
it's drag and drop, it's still too
You're
complicated
still going
for
through
most
a lot.
people.
You'd have to really want that specific skill to do it. Again, as you say, for developers, for people who are really into these integrations and workflows, it will be useful, can save them time. I'm just not sure how widely adopted it'll be.
I wonder if you can export Siri shortcuts and share them. So here, this is the
there could be a
workflow
market
that
for
we've
them
had.
if you could, you create some really unusual ones.
Yeah, some nice workflows.
Some IFTTT kinds of things.
And
so I'm interested to see.
It's a funny thing because Apple, on one hand, now they say that there's all this voice stuff is very niche and no one uses it. Then they release a product that's extremely niche and no one's going to use it. So now it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, well, we told you no one's going to want no one wants to use this stuff, but they're not. They're still missing the one thing, which is a home speaker that's affordable.
Yeah.
That needs to tie all this stuff together.
But Apple usually releases product A and then, like for instance, the iPod, one iPod, and then afterwards it became a family of iPods.
Sure.
I assume that because HomePod it's only been on the market for 6 months.
But it's been, it was talked about a year ago, and you would think that
the iPod, and I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if you're going to think they were going to build on that, they would start to do that now.
Or start there
have
first,
already
because the
started it.
iPod was its own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
There were MP3 players. No one used them. Alexa or Echo and Google Home are everywhere.
Already. Yeah.
They're entering a market that is flourishing.
Yeah, but there's still
and then
time
leaving
for
it go fallow. I mean, here's our HomePod that's overpriced and does great tunes, but doesn't do anything near the kinds of things that Alexa.
And they didn't even mention it yesterday.
Well, I'm looking.
Nothing.
I think it's because it's hardware.
And I
based.
say, I have a HomePod.
Beta,
I like it.
There's no
I want them to
audio
do
OS
more.
beta.
I think no.
Come on now.
I think they're saving the hardware announcements for the fall.
I'm not even looking for hardware. Give me some software. Give me some HomePod
so
software.
that the hardware you've got now works.
It has its own OS.
Right.
How come I'm not hearing anything about it?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I probably haven't opened it up to developers. I mean, well, they haven't opened up to developers, and that's probably why they didn't mention it at WWDC.
That's problem number one. And I'm serious. No,
I know. I agree.
I mean,
I agree.
with Google Home and Alexa, like they get everyone in the boat.
Yeah.
And Apple
There's an
is
SDK
saying,
for those.
Yeah. Well, there's I mean, for lack of a better word, yes.
Okay.
They let developers use those products to automate their system.
Right.
Apple is saying, if you have a Notes app or a mess, what are the three things? Notes and messages. It's like it's a very limited subset.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And that's it. Music, nope.
Right.
I mean, really? It's a freaking speaker.
That's not true. I think there is a Apple Music integration.
Apple Music.
Yes.
That's it. I'm talking about third party.
Yeah,
yeah,
please.
yeah.
There's no Spotify.
I want my
there's no
Pandora. I want my Pandora on my
people listen
HomePod.
to other things on Apple products.
What?
Yeah.
Does Apple know about this?
Apparently not. All right, so moving on to Mojave real quick. The dark mode. Dark mode? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what
nice.
Dark mode.
I like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Dynamic desktops.
What's really interesting in there is something that I didn't see highlighted yesterday. Maybe I just missed it. But not only do you do dark mode, but you have different highlight colors you can go to now. It's not just blue and whatever that slate gray is. You can go red, yellow, orange, purple, whatever. Which really it really does make the visuals in Mojave, in the Finder windows, Safari windows, it makes things pop in a way that I haven't seen in a while. I like it.
Yeah, it's nice.
I don't know that I necessarily need it. They seem to be pitching that to developers. I mean, is the whole point if you're in a dark room coding that this is going to be ideal?
I guess they use dark. I mean, honestly, I write in a dark and white on black.
Yeah.
Maybe they like it too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't read white on black though. It's harder to read for me. I've been, when I'm using like
Mojave
Kindle.
seems more iterative again. It just seems like here's a bunch of the miscellaneous stuff that we've been working on. There's no like overarching theme except for maybe again performance and stability.
And they kind of mentioned at the very, very tail end about the combination of the apps, iOS apps coming to the Mac desktop.
Right.
They're not going to.
It's not one OS.
No, it's not
we
one
knew
OS,
that.
which we knew,
that,
but they are. But that's not till next year, right?
Well, they're testing it out now, and then they're going to open up to developers next year.
Yeah. One of the things I have noticed in just playing around a little bit with Mojave is a lot of the apps, I'm getting that warning now that this app is not optimized for, is that the 32-bit, 64-bit thing? That's coming.
This is the last year, I think. That
basically you've got one more year. And so that's the sort of thing I'm thinking not only is it going to affect me, but I'm sure there are a lot of companies that have apps that they use, that those apps will need to be updated before companies start making the jump to Mojave or whatever comes next year. They're giving us plenty of warning. Yeah. But I was surprised at the number of things that I use that Mojave thinks is not optimized for macOS.
Any specifics?
I think it was Text Wrangler. I think the VPN we use. A couple of other things I can't remember now off the top of my head. But yeah, several things like that I use daily for what I do. And I'm sure, knock on wood, that they'll be updated. But
hopefully a year lead time
would be enough, one would think.
Well, you just have to stay on Mojave the rest of your life.
Well, yeah, not a bad place to live. Any other thoughts on macOS?
I like the camera integration with iOS devices. That's nice.
Sort of continuity for cameras, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And then dynamic desktops. Okay, cool. Stacks on desktop. Yay.
The stacks are all right. I remember Expose back in the day.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but automatic.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure I'd use it.
New Finder view, a little preview with more information. Markup integration. And then screen capture, quick options, just like in iOS. And then again, it feels more iterative.
It's like you say, iterative is a good word for it. It's polish. It's
less. It feels like less focused on specific areas and more of hey, we've taken this through the wash.
We've tweaked these things, and
we've cleaned it up a bit, and that's good because even next year it's going to be even more cleaned up because they're going to remove all the 32-bit code, go 64-bit, and hopefully that doesn't introduce 1,000 more bugs.
Do they? When do they reach a point where they change? Like, all right, so macOS Classic 9, 8, 7 reached a point, and then they completely changed it with macOS 10, and now we've had this for 14 years now.
Yeah, what is it? Longer than
it's longer
the original?
Longer than
Classic.
the original.
Yeah. So, are they going to stick with this, or
why not? I mean, the underpinnings are.
Yeah, I would say unless there's there were reasons that they needed to move from 9 to macOS, and obviously lots of reasons.
Right.
I don't see the limitations in the current operating system that would require them to make a big jump. We'll see in the next 3, 4, 5 years, but right now I don't see it.
Yeah, because the thing with OS 10 is it's kind of piecemeal. You can take out components and slip in other components, and that's what they've been pushing for. Well, that was one of the benefits when Steve Jobs first announced it. He's like, hey, we can do this in chunks, basically.
Yeah. Well, I mean, iOS 9 was Mac OS 9 was terrible.
No,
that was ancient.
I think I started at 7, so it was like
761 was when I first.
Yeah, that's about the time I was.
753. That's right, 753, and it was so buggy. 755 came out like almost immediately. 761 and then Mac OS 8.
Historical note: my first computer was a Mac Performance 6200, one of the worst computers Apple has ever made.
Right, nice.
I stuck with it though. Okay, moving on to watchOS. It looks like there's a lot going on, a lot of development around the watchOS.
That I'm actually excited.
I was just going to say, and Mike, that's your cue because you love that.
Yeah, I like the. I love. See, if you follow me on Twitter, I have a love-hate relationship. But I'm pretty sure it's just because my wrist is so mannishly dainty. I don't know what that means. I just think it's. I think the workout improvements are super welcome. The fitness improvements are super welcome. The hiking stuff, that's great.
The auto start and stop thing.
Auto start and stop, absolutely. Yeah. Because like you said, you go on workouts, you start it, you forget to stop it.
And then like 2 hours later, it's like, oh, wow, that was a long run. It's like, no.
Right. I really like the enhancements that they're doing to watchOS, and I really hope that the next hardware, really that they make better the heart tracking.
Well, that's been your bête noire from day one.
Right. That's the love-hate relationship.
The heart rate.
Yeah, because my problem is when I grip something, for some reason my wrist does this thing where it creates a space between the watch and the sensor, or the sensor and the so it loses. So it basically tells me that my heart rate's at 50 beats per minute, when I'm clearly sweating and dying. You know, and this
Maybe
thing's
you just have a low threshold.
yeah, exactly. You know, so I hope the next bit of hardware kind of addresses that or makes the target area smaller. But again, this looks like a nice improvement to watchOS. You know, again, they more workout support.
Yeah.
Let me see. They're pushing the coaching, the automatic workout detection.
The walkie-talkie is
The walkie-talkie is amazing.
That's kind of a gee
I
whiz.
mean, it was really nice when it was
That's
on the Motorola phones in 2008.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, what's old is new again, maybe.
Right.
You know, but I didn't hear anything about third-party watch faces.
Yeah,
Nothing.
That was something I was kind of hoping
You
for.
didn't hear anything about watch faces, period, except for some enhancements to the Siri face.
Which maybe they're saving that for
Yeah,
the fall
I
with the
think
new
maybe.
Apple Watch and whatever comes out then. And so I'm hoping that they'll be more
also
about that.
notably absent is sleep tracking still,
Yeah.
which could be a battery thing. Maybe that'll be with the Watch Series 3,
I've always
Series
assumed it
4.
was a battery thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but with my Fitbit Versa, I can wear it to sleep, and it gives me stages and tells me how long I slept, how my REM, my deep sleep. It's fantastic, and Apple does none of that unless you get a third-party app.
There's definitely third-party apps. I use this for tracking my sleep as
but
well.
it's not. You know,
It's not built in.
But then
integrated.
when do you charge your watch?
I have a long commute.
Yeah.
I spend at least an hour in my car, just one way.
So you wear the watch at night for the sleep tracking, and then charge the watch on the way into work.
On the way in and on the way to home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
You'd almost have to do that because I mean, yeah.
Yeah, what I mean, Fitbit has 4 to 5 day battery life. That's what you would need
Right.
on an Apple Watch for it to really be integrated. In
Yeah,
the
but
system.
Fitbit is very much focused on fitness
They
and
are.
less generic
Hence the name.
watch.
I mean, they are, but they have 2 smart watches, so to speak, and they have screens and they have apps and they play music and they have Bluetooth support and all that stuff. It's
And
not, they're not just bands.
right, I gotcha. And those are the ones that last a couple days as well.
For 4 to 5 days. Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
color screens and all that jazz. You know, they're good.
Why you at,
the,
Apple?
the Versa is 300, I think, and
Interesting.
yeah, it lasts 4 days.
Yeah.
I just tested it about a month ago.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something for sleep tracking, at least for now.
They're out there, and my bet is Series 4 will have a dramatic improvement in battery life.
Yeah.
There's already talk that they're increasing the screen, so there is some internal improvements there, and I do think that sleep tracking will be limited to that model, but I think it will be coming
Sure.
to the Apple Watch. I mean, I think it's
Sure.
important. Apple is billing the watch as a communication and fitness and health device.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's important. Sleep is huge.
We should note that the initial Series 0 watch will not get watchOS 5.
My $17,000 watch is
Yeah.
now a brick.
Well,
So it's like stuck where it is now. It's not going to
I
get
mean,
any better.
you know, jokes aside, that's a little surprising since it's been what 3 years, 4 years. When
right. But
did
if
it
you go
come out?
back
4
to
years.
Series 0, I mean, it's
No, I agree with
that
that.
was it. That was
I
a
agree.
slowpoke from day one.
was.
It
Right.
really
It was very slow.
Best thing I
Right.
ever did was move from that to the current watch.
So improved notifications on the watch.
Yeah.
That's nice. Again, nice,
it's okay.
nice iterative.
I'm more excited about notifications in my phone.
Gotcha.
Group
The grouping.
notifications.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Like what? And you know, there's little things like if you swipe something away repeatedly, it'll
Right.
say, "Do you want to keep this notification? Maybe you want to get rid of it."
Right.
Like things like that are awesome.
Yeah.
And Android has
Absolutely.
had that for a while, and you know, some of them are coming to Android P. Some of them. Listen. Everyone steals from everybody else, and if you're going to steal the right
Steal
features.
the good stuff, right?
Well done. Well
Right.
said. Well said.
And finally, tvOS. I mean, I do use. I've got 2 Apple TVs. I use one of them with a TV that is not connected to a cable box, so it's pretty much my only box to the TV. And it's interesting. Is it Charter Communications
Yeah,
that
Charter.
they've signed up, so you can.
I'm still waiting for single sign to come to my provider, let alone zero sign.
Who do you?
I have Comcast.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay.
It's
Oh,
not supported.
Sorry.
Good
Yeah.
luck with
It's
that.
all right. I can type in my password
Yeah,
over and over
again,
No
yeah.
problem.
It's annoying.
No, it looks like they're obviously again, as you say, iterative. There's some nice things with tvOS. Not no game changers.
The Dolby Atmos.
Dolby
support
Atmos
the
is
thing.
what.
I don't
Whenever I'm on
have- I don't
a
have it.
message board looking
Yeah.
at everybody's screaming about
Yeah,
Dolby Atmos.
Everyone, meaning
I'm
like
not sure to
2%
my
of
ear.
the population
I'm-
has
well,
receivers.
no,
that-
but the
that
people
can-
on
The
the
ones on that
message
forum,
boards are
yeah.
the 2% that
it's
want
the
that.
loudest voices, but that's. I mean, it's a good feature. They need it. You know, it's good that the Apple TV supports the latest audio and video standards. But listen, that is a small percentage of the population, even smaller percentage
Well,
of Apple TV users.
you've got to get the number of people who have an Apple TV and the number of people who've got the setup, the sound setup, and then the ones who are saying that they're missing Atmos. And
that being said,
those 5 people are very loud.
But that being said, if you are an audio video file,
You want the best.
all of a sudden the Apple TV is pretty attractive
Yeah.
because it has 4K.
Yep.
Absolutely.
It does Dolby Atmos. You get 4K streaming if you have a movie collection. Everything is updated for free to Atmos and 4K.
Yep.
And there's a video service waiting in the wings that I'm gonna guess is going to be exclusive to Apple TV. Whether or not people care is another question. But some of the shows look pretty good.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be Apple's big play for Apple TV. Like, this is the only place you can get this.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
Do we know
Maybe
if
not.
the HomePod supports Dolby Atmos?
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so.
I don't. And
Wow.
yeah, I know it. Nothing with the HomePod.
Holy cow.
One thing I've noticed with tvOS or with the Apple TV is after the 4K version rolled out last year, was it?
Yeah.
It seemed like early on, Apple made the big deal about if you've got these movies, they'll be upscaled to the some of the older movies that I looked at looked absolutely hideous.
Oh, awful.
I mean, hideous.
Awful.
In 4K?
In 4K.
Yeah.
But to me it seems like over the last, I would say, 3 to 6 months they've gotten better, because when I go back and look at them now, they're not what you'd get in a modern, they're not Blade Runner 2049, but they're much better. They're at least watchable now,
Right.
And reasonably enjoyable.
And
Interesting.
the new stuff is awesome.
Oh, the
Yeah,
new
it's
stuff
really
is
good.
insane. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we've pretty much covered most of what, and we did it in less than 2.5 hours. I appreciate that. So,
Well, now we can demo everything.
now
that
we can
just
demo. Yeah,
talked
right.
about.
We don't have to demo it. No.
Right. Yeah, can we roll the clip?
Yeah. Right.
Roll the clip? Oh, there's no clip.
So, Mike,
Sorry.
thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Mike, thanks for being here.
No worries.
For Apple Week, WWDC. That's a wrap.